Hey, I'm gonna demo making a uh video game from scratch using code gen and I guess LLMs to help me. And I'm gonna take a sort of two-part approach. I'm gonna spend a bunch of time getting a sort of spec right that's just just text in a markdown document. And then I'm going to use that spec to get a model to actually generate the code for parts for the spec. And what I want to demonstrate is this planning approach, kind of helping make things go quicker because you can figure out a bunch of stuff in advance. Kind of like writing just a regular spec, you kind of solve a bunch of problems just on paper and save lots of time. And also kind of guide the model better, hopefully too. What I'm going to make is this game I've kind of had in the back of my mind for a little while. There was this old game in the early 2000s called Fear, that was kind of a sort of like a first person spooky shooter thing, but it had this really interesting AI technology or technique called GOPE, which is basically kind of high level. It's sort of so it's like a first person shooter, and the enemies can strategize and cooperate with each other to sort of kind of behave more intelligently when they're fighting the player. And so I wanted to try this AI technique, the scope technique, on like a much simpler game. So it's going to be like a top down shooter. You're a player. There's enemy soldiers. You're like running around, a little level. That's just sort of obstacles and bad guys basically. And I want to see how this AI technique feels to use in this kind of game. And so my goal is to get to actually trying that part of it as quickly as possible. So everything's going to be super primitive. Anyway, let's get started. So I want to start off kind of doing some planning, like I say. So what I'm going to do is just kind of chat away to try and build up this spec in a markdown file, to, like I say, solve problems in advance, think through the design, and also use the AI as a collaborator as well to sort of help me improve my design. So this is going to be me talking to the AI just to save a bunch of typing. It's much quicker talking than typing for me, at any rate, and I think many people. And then, so yeah, let's get started. Alright, I want to make a video game. It's a top-down shooter, and the player is a little soldier. They can fire their gun or whatever. And then the enemies are also little soldiers, and they can shoot at the player. And if the bullets hit the enemies, then their health goes down, and then they die, and then vice versa. Same's true for the player. But what I want to build into this game is this AI technique that I'm sure you've heard of called GOPE. GOAP, and where the enemies can strategize and cooperate together. So, but first I want to just actually design the game in a markdown document. So let's create a markdown document called spec.md and put it in the root of our project. And yeah, let's just stick those details in the document just to get us going. So like I said, this spec will describe the game, and then we'll use it to implement the game. Okay, so I said all that stuff, and it's got turned into text, and now it's being sort of nicely formatted, and then there I just submitted it to the model. So yeah, I'm using the Claude 3.7 Sonnet model with the thinking on, just to give it some extra reasoning ability. So it's already generated like a spec for me basically. So this looks it looks like a great start. Want to try and keep this spec like as short and dense as possible, still having all the meaning it needs, but just that makes it easy to scan, easy to change and stuff. So I'm just going to kind of scan through this and dictate some notes that I want and changes I want to make. Okay, so yeah, let's refine the player. So yeah, the player moves, I guess, forwards and backwards, and then can rotate clockwise and counterclockwise. Only with the arrow keys. There's no mouse control at all. And then you shoot with spacebar. Let's get rid of the cooldown. We'll worry about the health system later. We'll worry about the camera later. So get rid of all that. Then the enemy stuff looks good. There's not going to be different enemy types with varying behaviors. They're all just going to be regular soldiers with rifles. Get rid of the GOAP system section. We're not ready for that yet. The world section looks good. Let's not worry about spawn points. Let's just say that enemies just are placed in the level, and where, they start there and then move on from there. There's no power-ups or health pickups. Get rid of the game flow section. Delete the GOAP implementation section. We're not ready for that yet. This is a good call. Yeah, we use an ECS system, for our implementation. That's cool. That all seems right. You can add in that I think we'll use a SAT, separating axis theorem, collision detection, in the core systems section. We can definitely figure out what the art style is. So everything's just a circle. And let's say the player is a black circle, with a fill, black fill. Then the enemies are red circles with a red fill, and then the obstacles are see-through circles, just circles with a black outline and then a white fill, and then the background is white. And that's all the styling will do. That'll be fine. Delete the sound section and delete the future enhancements section. Okay, so you can just spew out a bunch of thoughts. Now I can just, dump them all into this text and then send it to the model, and it will make those refinements. So let's let it do that. Okay, so it's refining the spec now based on that feedback, and I'm sure that's going to be fine. It's much shorter now, which is nice. This is good. Okay, so now I want to get into the tech a little bit. So I'm going to talk about the stack. Okay, can we add details about the stack? I definitely want to write the code in TypeScript. We can use Vite as the bundler, VITE. Let's use bun, not node. NPM as a package manager as usual, I guess. It's obviously browser based, and we want to do all the rendering to the canvas. So just describe that, add that as a stack section as a H2 near the top. Okay, so just trying to nail down as many things that I feel, pretty confident about. So now I'm sort of starting to think about the implementation, and I don't really, that looks great. I don't really know. So I don't think I want to use a library. I mean, I could, if there was a really simple library that would help with very basic stuff like collisions or whatever, or maybe handling input and stuff, where it's just like, there's a very clearly circumscribed black box of functionality that I could just plug in. I definitely don't want to bring in some Mondo framework that I'm just going to be learning and, figuring out the idioms for. I've written JavaScript games before, just in pure JavaScript, or in TypeScript or whatever, and so I feel reasonably confident with the basic structures. So, I think it makes sense to go for just a plain JavaScript project. So let's do that. And I'm kind of also thinking about so I want to do this in milestones. I'm not going to try and do the whole thing in one go, certainly not. I want to do it in concrete, but somewhat meaningful milestones. So I guess I want to get a bit of a hello world going. So but I also want to spend some more time on this spec. So, okay, let's figure out some more stuff. So, yeah, let's think about, okay, I want to think about the basic game loop and, system for, objects or entities communicating with each other. We're going for the ECS system. I think that'll make sense. So let's think about, the event system. So what I want is, I need to know about collisions just in order to, keep objects from overlapping each other. But also I need to know about collisions for things like bullets hitting enemies and things like that. So I need some sort of event system. So could you propose like a idiomatic event system for a very simple game? I think we're not going to use any kind of library or anything. We're just going to implement the collisions from scratch. We're going to implement the game loop from scratch. So yeah, let's focus on the events. Let's figure out the events. Don't write any code or change the spec or anything like that. Just propose an event system that's like super clear, but like I say, where you can get notified, oh, the player's been hit by a bullet, I'll need to, so that you can like decrement health and stuff like that. But I want to be very, very simple because we don't need anything complex. Okay, so this feels like, again, part one of the value of the model is just saying your thoughts out loud and getting them into a sort of form that you feel happy with. So just sort of rubber ducking, I guess. But then the other big value that is actually getting suggestions and stuff. So, okay, so it's recommended a pub subsystem. That seems fine. Yeah, so with different types of events. Yeah, and with data on them, that makes sense. I think it's saying publish and subscribe. I think that seems too much infrastructure, so we'll skip that. Yeah. Yeah, so this is fine. Okay, so I'm just going to refine it and then get it to add it. Okay, this is pretty good. The only change I want to make is I don't want to have to explicitly I don't want to have to explicitly subscribe. Just broadcast every event to every object. It's like, we're not worried about performance right now. We could just have, event handlers, just ignore everything except the events that they're interested in by just checking the type on the event. So, make that change. Also, I want to include in the documentation about this. So let's add a new event system to the technical implementation section. To, just very quickly, like just a few bullets, summarize what you've suggested. But, get all the info in there, but just be super succinct. We're trying to keep this short. And like I say, we're just broadcasting all the events, and then just listening, an entity can just listen for the events it cares about. And also make it clear in the design, in this section, that collisions, in terms of the physical, pulling entities apart that have bumped into each other, stop them overlapping, that should be handled by the collision system. So everything is just automatically kept apart. But then the collision system just publishes events telling about a collision event or whatever. So like I say, the physics, like the physical part of it, keeping things apart, that should be in the collision system. But then events should be published so that everything else to do with collisions can be handled. Oh, and this is a nice thing about the voice thing. So the temptation is to just have it automatically submit after it's finished generating the text. But I actually really like that, I don't do that. You see, it's just pasted it in. It hasn't submitted it yet. I really like that occasionally, not very often, but occasionally I'll think of something as it's generating the text that I want to add. And now I don't have to stop it and bring it back. I can just talk more and just add it in. Shoot, what was I going to say? It's fine. I can be on it. I'm sure it's not that important. Oh, that was what I was going to say, was add it to the spec, but it's doing it already. Great. Uh, yeah, that's good. Just break out the event system into its own H4 underneath core systems. Because I think it's a little longer. And so this combo of talking to get the text out way faster than typing, but then reading way faster than listening. So I don't have it read anything back to me or anything like that. I just can just scan this. It's like zillions of times faster than it just reading all this stuff out. All right, that was good. Okay, so we accepted that. So, oh, and by the way, so what Cursor does is really cool is, in agent mode, which we're in right now, where we're doing this talk and generate, then it actually automatically saves all of its changes, but you can then hit like Command Shift Delete to remove those changes again in just one keystroke. It's really nice. Or you can hit Command Return to say, yeah, I want those changes. So it's not actually saving when you're saying, yeah, I want them, but you're just saying, yep, this is a good checkpoint. I'm ready to move on from here. So that's really nice. Oh, I guess it fucked up on that. That should be an H4. Cool. All right. So this is feeling good. Now I want to talk about where have we got? I wonder if to talk about the entity component system. I think it'll probably get that. But let's dig into that. Okay, add another H4 about the entity component system inside the core system section. Just clarify, a bullet point saying, entities have components that describe their data shapes, and then systems can select on, things with specific entities with specific components and then do their thing, implement behavior. And also specify that we will still have types of object like player and enemy and obstacle and stuff, but they will just basically be spawning functions that create new entities that, with combinations of components. Okay, so I think it would probably actually know what ECS meant and will probably do a good job, but I just want to be a bit specific about it. So next, now I'm thinking about milestones. I want to kind of get into that. I think I'm mostly getting there. Yeah, that looks great. Yeah, so I could go on with milestones and start actually mapping out the implementation roadmap. Or I could dig in. Yeah, I think, let's add a bit. Okay. Let's add a section about the game loop, and just clarify just a bullet point on, there's an update loop where all the systems run, and then there's a render loop where, actually, not even that, actually. We don't even need a thing. We just need a game loop that, runs 60 times a second or whatever, and then runs all the systems. I think that's fine, actually. And it'll also need to run the collision, module, and yeah, so just map out a very brief section about the game loop in that, with what I've said. Alright, so we're like 20 minutes in here and it feels, obviously we haven't written any code yet, but it feels like we've nailed down a bunch of things. I definitely feel like I've got a much clearer picture of what we need to implement. And yeah, this is close. This seems fine. So manages all system updates in sequence. Let's say runs all systems Let's do that. I think we should do the collision first. And then systems can also render. Systems handle rendering. Yeah, and that's not really. Okay, great. That seems good. I'm also wondering if we need to have. Okay, this is a bit of a chat. Don't write anything to the spec yet, but I just want to talk through how we should handle the collision detection. It feels like that should be a component that goes onto stuff that can collide. So I think that's fine. And rendering, well, open questions are, what do you think about how we handle letting the player, for example, respond to input? I guess that's going to be a component too, actually. I think about it like a player input component or a player movement component or something. That I think makes sense. So let's add both of those ideas to the spec, actually, so we can go ahead and update it. And then the other thing is rendering is also going to be components. So I guess there'll be like a circle render system that can respond to something having a transform on it or whatever, or maybe even like a circle component on it. That makes sense, actually. Yeah. So just add all that, and if you think that sounds wrong, definitely push back and let's talk it through. So I feel like there's a solid plan, but maybe there's I haven't really written too much ECS code before, at least not for a long time. So I sort of want to do, if it has a better idea of the idioms, then I'd definitely defer. Okay, so it didn't push back, so I guess that seems fine. Yeah, so it's saying weapon component, input component. Yeah, that's good. Let's delete the velocity component. Let's rename the input component to player input component. Otherwise, looks good. Okay, nice. All right, nice. Boom. Okay, let's get on with it. Let's do some milestones. Okay, add a new milestones section to the document, like an H2, I guess. And also add to the document that like a check mark means a milestone's completed. Just to, remind, I guess, you that, what that means. And let's add milestone 0, that called like milestone : project setup or something. And that should have in it a directory structure that we're going to create, and, sort of instructions for, I guess, installing any libraries we want, though I think we probably don't actually want any, but, I guess, doing any, like, bun init commands or stuff to actually set up the project for bun and vite. I guess it'd be vite, wouldn't it? So vite input commands that we want to do to set up the basic skeleton. And then in the directory structure, we'll need an index.html. We'll need, a source directory with probably, I guess, components directory in it, systems directory in it, entities, or let's say entity types directory in it. Yeah, so just fill that section out, milestone 0, with the stuff that we'll need to set up a bun-based vite project, that, will be able to render to a canvas in a browser, And yeah, just lay that out. Okay, so the value here, I think, is that getting it to describe the data structure, the directory structure in advance, I think is really helpful. Because I can kind of just eyeball it quickly. Like, it's probably going to it's definitely going to remember way better, like, what all the V commands and stuff are and stuff and things like that. Okay, so actually we already have a directory, so we don't need that. But yeah, this looks good. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like remembering all this stuff like bun, create, v, dot, dash, template, vanilla, ts. That's all really helpful. And I guess bun install makes sense. Then we've got the source directory, so we've got a main. Oh yeah, that's a good idea. Got a game. We've got components, systems, entities, events. Oh yeah, I guess we never quite decided when events would be responded to. We should talk about that too. And then utils. I hate utils directories, but okay, so this is looking pretty good though. Okay, this is good, except we already have the gope directory, so we just need to make sure that we are in it, which we are, because we've already created a VS Code project for it. So I think if we just need the bun create and the bun install commands. I don't like utils directories. Could we move collision somewhere more sensible, that describes, where it actually fits into the picture? Seems like maybe it even, well, yeah, I guess have a think about that. Maybe, I don't know, libraries or modules or something would be a little better, at least. Yeah, that's good. And also in a different section, could you, well, no, yeah, actually, just make those changes. Okay, I was about to start talking about the, when we respond to events and stuff, but that feels like that's sort of off topic right now. Okay, so it's going to make some nice changes there, I'm sure. Okay, yeah, modules, physics, SAT, that's nice. Okay, this looks good. Alright, now I want to, let's not write any, thing to the spec. I want to quickly just talk about the system, or the approach we're going to take to letting, it's fine. I think we'll come back to that later. Okay, great. Alright. Yeah, let's make it a cool check mark. I want to make it a nice check mark. There you go. Great. Okay, I think so. The temptation is to actually let's dig a bit more into the next milestones, because I want to kind of plan ahead, because we'll save a bunch of time that way in the long run. Okay, so I guess milestone 1 is definitely going to be like a hello world implementation. So I'm going to describe what that I think looks like. Okay, this is looking great. Now can we add a second milestone called milestone getting something on the screen. And in this milestone, all we want to do is implement we want to get a black circle moving backwards and forwards across the screen. And it should be obviously an entity, and we should, it should use it should have a transform component on it, a movement, or let's call it an oscillate component on it, to do the movement backwards and forwards, and we'll need to create the oscillation system and the, the circle render system to add to it. Sorry, the, circle render system and the, circle render component on it as well. And let's also create a new entity called we'll do the player actually, but we just won't add any keyboard input or anything like that yet. And let's not worry about physics right now, or collision detection or anything like that. So just create that new module milestone section. Okay, so there I was like, I probably went into more detail than I should have done. Because really it's just about thinking through what we want to do. Yeah. I want to, slim this down. Yeah, this is good. Let's slim this down to just describe, just list the components that we need to make and the systems that we need to make, and what the behavior is of a black circle entity that oscillates across the screen. Get rid of that stuff about implement game loop with proper timing. That's redundant. Verify the rendering pipeline works correctly. Delete that. And actually, just delete the create a black circle entity line, and just leave in the set up a player entity with transform and circle render components. Actually, you know what? Let's just redo this section. So let's just have it say set up a player entity with transform, circle render, and oscillate components. The oscillate component should have speed and distance. Circle render should have color, and transform should have position, rotation, and radius. And then, add a line about creating corresponding circle render system and oscillation system. And then, that's good. So slim it down and just focus on what I said. So I really want to keep the spec not too long, because it's just, a long document when we all know what a nightmare those are. That's not quite as, this is fine, actually. This is fine. This is just a little more structured. I think this is fine. Okay, great. So the next milestone after this is going to be, I think adding, and we'll just stop this out because I feel, we don't want to go into too much detail here. We really want to get something going, actually running. Okay, now add a new milestone, obstacles and collisions, and just do a one line in it that just says, implement circular obstacles that have a black outline and a white fill, and place a couple into the game, and implement separating axis theorem, physics module, and then wire up, create a new collision component and put it on the player and the obstacles, and so that when they bump into each other, they keep from overlapping. Actually update the milestone with obstacles, collisions, player movement. And let's also implement the player movement system that operates on the player, as I described, using the arrow keys to move forward, backwards, and rotate left and right. Okay, so we're going to add another milestone, and I think we should probably pause there and get something get something working. Okay, that's good. Yeah, I like that. Replace oscillate component with player input component. That's a good catch. I like that. Yeah, I've got the player movement. Yeah, this is looking great. Perfect. Okay, let's do it. All right, so we are going to, let's add, all right, so just came up with this idea. Yeah, so we're going to do this one. All right. And now, And now in theory, I can just say, go and do this, and it will do it. Let's definitely start a new chat. Oops, we definitely want spec in there. Please implement the milestone project setup section. Set up the current directory as a Vite project, based on those instructions, bun install, and then set up the directory structure. And don't implement any components or systems or entities or anything like that, but definitely do implement an index.html with a canvas element that, and have it just like render a red, like just fill the canvas with red or something like that, just so that we know that it's working. Also, don't run the server. I'll always make sure to run the server. All right, here we go. So it's now going to churn away doing that. And in theory, we can see how it's doing. Yeah, so I'm going to do that. Oops, see. There we go. Okay, so it's, so we're going to do, do that. Great. Okay, I guess it installed a bunch of stuff, which is nice. Okay, we're definitely getting some stuff in the directory now. Brilliant. Yeah, sure, that's good. Creating some directories. Okay, now it's creating the files. Index HTML. Nice title. And now it's getting into the actual code. I'm hoping it doesn't do too. Oh, it's really got cracky on that. Okay. I guess that's okay. What the game? Oh, okay, fine. Oh, fine. Yeah. So I guess this is just setting up this is much more about, this is not like the ECS system yet. This is just about setting up the rendering area and so on. Yeah. And getting the game going. Okay. That's fine. That's good. Okay. It's doing the event stuff again. Kind of felt like I said, don't go mad, and with implementing all this stuff, but, off it went. But this all feels fine. So that's good. Okay. So it's creating some placeholder files. Alright, it's deleting some stuff that Vite just adds on its own. So a sort of demo project. Now it's created a Vite config file. Alright. Just checking it, set everything up correctly. Great, okay, good. Alright, so it's done it. Alright, so we'll accept all of that. Nice. So I guess we've got one lint there. Okay, yeah, we can definitely figure out that. Well, actually, let's leave that in there. It's fine. Good. Yeah, and as asked for, okay, mostly empty. Oh, and there's the sat. I think it's just empty too. Yes, it is. Great. All right, let's run this. Whoops. I think it's Van dev. Yeah, nice. All right, fantastic. Just what we asked for. So we've got just a canvas with just all red. So I feel confident that it is definitely rendering some stuff there that we told it to do. So that's fantastic. All right, I think we can probably close that now. Okay, so let's jump back to our spec, close some of this stuff. So it did all of that, which is amazing. So that's done. And now let's go and do the next milestone. Thank you. Yeah, nice. Thanks, Cursor++. Okay, so there's a bunch here. I think I'm going to add another milestone that just, well, I think it's fine. I think it's okay. I think let's let it do it. Okay, now please implement milestone getting something on the screen. Let's do it in 2 sections. Let's just get the player entity on screen. So for that, we'll need the transform, the circle render, and we'll need a circle render system. The transform and circle render component. And we'll also need to, in the game running initial run, then we'll need to create a new player and add them to the entities, but don't do the oscillation stuff yet. So here I think it probably would do a good job of getting this right, but I think it's going to have to generate a bunch of stuff. So I don't want it to sort of have to go off for too long and then have to sort of unfuck it or whatever. So just asked it to just create the player and get them rendering on screen. And then we'll add oscillation as part 2. And I feel that because if we keep this chat, then we'll be able to explain easily, oh, by the way, you've already done the player stuff. You just need to add oscillation and it will get that. Okay, so it's, let's see what it's doing. Let's scroll back a bit here. So, it created a transform component. That makes sense. Circle render component is what we asked for. We've got an entity type or an interface. Entity store. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Now it's doing the create player spawning function, or I guess entity creation function. Now it's doing the circle render system. Let's check that out just to see it's not gone. Yeah, that all makes sense to me. That looks like Canvas code. Okay, nice. Yeah, so it's getting the whole, hey, only run a system or just, have a system respond to specific components being on an entity. That makes sense. That's what I expected. So it's asking to run bun dev. Let's tell it not to do that. Okay, great. Yeah, it's just done it. I'm just going to say, let's actually do a cursor rule for this. Yeah, so let's accept these changes. New cursor rule. So let's call it, I don't know, just project. And then always, so do not run, bun run dev. I'll always make sure to have it running. Otherwise it's just going to keep on trying to spawn its own servers and stuff, and it's just not necessary. Okay, great. So let's just run it and see what, boom, look at that. Okay, great. So we've got a black circle on screen, which is the player. It's not moving, but that's okay. Now let's go right ahead and say, okay, this is great. Now please complete, the milestone getting something on the screen by adding the oscillate component, making the create player function add it to the player, and also implementing the oscillation system, so that it will actually, notice the oscillation component and make the entity with that component actually oscillate. Okay, so hopefully it cracks this, and then we'll have some movement, which will be cool. It's amazing, this. It's just love this so much. Alright, so it made an oscillation component and then an oscillation system. I don't know why it's decided to call it oscillation system, but not oscillate component. Maybe we could ask it to tidy that up a bit later. Okay, so it's updating the player to, I'm guessing, add the oscillate component. That's great. Oh, so something went wrong with... Oh, okay, so it wants to... Oh, that's interesting. Okay, yeah, so that's an interesting decision. It's separated out the renders into a render function. So the circle render system is in the render function, whereas the oscillation system is in the update. That's okay. I mean, that's fine. I think that's interesting. Okay, great. Let's see. Oh, yeah, look at that. Oh, nice. I think it even put a little bit of... Did it put a bit of ease on there as well? Oh, yeah. Hold on. Wait, no, maybe it didn't. Oh, yeah, no, it did. It's using sine. Nice. Oh, it looks really nice. So it just kind of slows down a little bit before turning. Okay, this is great. I love this. So I wonder if it ticked off. It did not tick off the milestone. That's fine. Maybe it felt that would be a bit above its station. Oops. Okay, cool. All right, let's oh, this and collision. Oh yeah, and let's Alright, so this is we're now going to do the obstacles and player movement and collisions milestone, which is great. Yeah, this all looks good to me. I think we can probably just go for it. But again, we are definitely starting a new chat because the context in the spec. We don't need it to hit it with the details. It's gonna sort of get overloaded if we chat for too long. So let's do this in two parts too, I think. So we're gonna do I think we should probably do yeah, let's move the obstacles into their own milestone, I think. Okay, could you update the spec? Let's create a milestone before the milestone obstacles and player movement and collisions, just called milestone obstacles. And just add a few bullets about how obstacles should have a transform and a circle render component. And, you know, how they should render. They should be, I guess, what did I say? Black outline, white fill. It should be larger than the player. So, you know, let's say double the radius. And we want to add a couple to the game when it starts, not overlapping the player. Let's put them somewhere in the middle of the screen, and move the player down to sort of let's say the bottom quartile of the screen. And yeah, so let's add that new milestone and then remove the stuff about setting up obstacles from the milestone that we've already got. Okay, so just kind of doing a quick spec rewrite here. Alright, that's good. Because again, I just don't want to go into sort of, you know, too far off track. Okay, so where are we? We're 15 minutes in. And yeah, and we've got a lot done, which is really cool. Okay, so it's done that. Okay, so I'm glad it's cut down on this a little bit. Also, I should make it more like that. That looks nice. Okay, this is totally pointless. Yeah, great. Good. And you know what? I think it's definitely time to commit because we're at a really good place. Okay, this looks great. This looks fine. So we've got player oscillating on screen. ECS system. Yeah, that's the substance. Oh, whoops. Okay. There we go. Great. Okay. Let's go ahead and build. Okay, please implement the obstacles milestone. So I've definitely had a bunch of chatter from friends that they're still on Claude 3.5 for implementation at any rate, and then people seem to use O3 for kind of talking through a spec. I found Claude 3.7 in thinking mode to be really good at both. And Claude 3.7 is definitely pretty eager and sometimes goes a bit sort of overboard with implementation, but mostly it's fine and yeah, just feels pretty good to me. So I've stuck with Claude 3.7. Okay, so what's it doing? Okay, so it's created. Oh, it's exciting. So it's created the collision component. I kind of, it's just kind of what I was just talking about. I kind of don't actually want it to create the collision component yet. But because we can't have movement, so we can't test it. We don't have player movement. But that's fine. It's just probably gone fine, I should think. Alright, yeah, so we've got some obstacles, that's great. Okay, just update the spec and the code to make the obstacles 4 times the radius of the player. Those obstacles just seem a bit small to me, because we're going to be doing like a sort of cover shooter type style, so I think we want something a little nicer. Also, love that, of course, Vita's updating, and just rerunning the game on change. Boom. Love it. Incredible. Yeah, thanks for that comment. All the models I've used for CodeGen are way too overeager with the comments. Like, sometimes super helpful to have a comment for sure, but most are just useless. Okay, but that's good. Alright, great. So we've got obstacles in there. So now we're going to have to go ahead and implement collision. So let's just recheck what we're doing. So we've got the stat collision detection, the collision system, collision component. We're going to do player movement first, definitely. Because that's a really nice isolated thing and it's going to be essential for testing. Fuck. Okay, fine. It's going to be essential for testing. So let's do that. Okay, now let's move to the, no, come on. There we go. Now let's move to the player movement and collisions milestone. And just implement the player movement system part first of this milestone. So just the movement with the arrow keys. Using the normal ECS system approach. So, actually let's update the spec while we're doing this to say that the movement should be done with a player movement component and system. Okay, so it's just looking at the ECS system. Okay, so it's created the player input component. That's interesting. So it's, okay, so it's modeled. Yeah. It's modeled key state on there, which is interesting. Okay, so player movement system sets up some input listeners. That makes sense when it's constructed. But it's got an entity store, okay. Okay, and it's spotted that we don't want the oscillate component anymore. That's nice. Okay, so it's updating game. So this is interesting. So actually I want to go and look at the player movement system. There we go. So what was interesting to me, a subtlety I had not noticed, was that somewhere, yeah, entity store. Interesting. So how does stuff get into the entity store? Oh, I see. So we pass them in. And then we do the filtering. This is a slightly weird implementation. So it's all weird that we set them, I guess. I mean, it says that. Oh, I see. Okay, fine. Okay, so that's why it's doing it. All right, so on the update, then the entities get stored on entity store, but then, and that's important because they need to have state, like, is the key up, which keys are up and down and stuff, stored on them so that they can have their movement enacted. But it seems like a definite kind of a race condition here in that, like, update needs to have happened. And that's sort of a little weird because it's sort of like the entities are passed in every time. I think I find this implementation a bit weird, but I think I just think it'll work. I'm sure it'll work actually, but it's all weird. Let's see if we can move. Yeah, okay, great. There we go. Great. Nice. No idea which direction I'm facing. Can only figure it out from, okay, so we definitely need to add another, like, rendering component. So let's update the spec. Let's do that. And then we're going to say, add, direction indicator arrow to component and system to, there you go, exactly. Okay, so I'm just going to tell it to do that while we're here. Okay, could you now in this milestone implement the bullet point, add direction indicator, arrow component, and system to visualize the player's movement direction? So it should just be a little subtle arrow that points obviously in the player's current heading. I'm almost tempted to kind of draw this, but we'll see what it comes up with. And then I think I want to dig into this, how entities are being managed on systems. I wonder if they're all doing it this way. So let's look at oscillation system. So there we just pass in the entities, which is fine. I mean, that's no problem. And I guess this is the same, isn't it? Yeah. So let's look for the update call. I wonder if it'll, yeah. And this entity is just the whole thing. Okay, yeah, so we have this big entity store for the whole game, and then it just basically passes all the entities into the update and render functions or whatever, and then they get passed into the relevant systems. So that, I think, is pretty clean and fine. What I don't like is this oscillations, or not even the player movement system. I'm going to discuss that with it, see what it thinks. Okay, do we have a direction? Oh, wow. Oh, yeah, we've definitely got a pretty solid direction indicator there. But now at least we know where we're headed. Great. Okay, cool. That's pretty funny. The arrow shows what the thing. That's weird. All right, great. Okay, but it still looks pretty cool. And it's fun to move around. Love that. So fun. This way. Okay, great. All right. Okay, so a bit of retrenching, I think. So I'll accept those changes for sure. We're definitely going to commit. Player movement and obstacles. No collisions yet. Okay, so what I love about this is that we've obviously made a lot of progress for an hour, I think, just by any benchmark. But I feel like we've got a robust implementation that we can build on, because we've got the ECS system, we've got this, we've encapsulated our idea for the collision detection, and so it's not just like junky code or whatever that, you know, it's just going to fall apart. It's actually very solid, I think, and very extensible. And so to have a quick prototype that is also still something you can build on for the future is really cool, I think. But we are definitely going to do a little bit of cleanup. So, all right, I want to do some cleanup of the code. But actually, don't write any code yet. Actually, I just want to ask you a question, your opinion, what you think. Right now, if you look in player movement system, you'll see that it has its own private entity store that is, and when the update function is called, it basically puts all of the entities in the game into that entity store, and it needs to do that because in the handle key event function, then it wants to update some key state on all the entities for when keys go down and stuff. And so I see why it's doing it, but it seems a bit janky in that, you know, if update hasn't happened yet, then handle key event won't seem to do anything. And we need to make sure that sort of it's not really guaranteed when key events are going to happen, and we kind of want everything to be happening in this like waterfall, knowing exactly which sequence every operation of the game happens. And so putting the handle key events, as it were, out of band is really not ideal, especially, like I say, because they have this private state that they rely on. Could you talk about, is it idiomatic to put input state into component state? That seems a little weird to me, but what's the like ECS best practice or like standard practice? Again, I haven't written that much ECS code, so maybe this is like the common way to do it, but it seems a bit weird to me. Quite apart from the implementation approach of getting it done, but just even the goal seems a bit weird. Okay, so it's looking through a few different things. Yeah. Okay, so it's basically agreeing with everything I've said. Classic LLM. Okay, so it's suggested a few different things. I do actually quite like the option 2, single input state component. It's like super clear what's going on. It's easy to read and debug. Yeah, we should probably implement option 3, I think, long term, because it's sort of the most extensible. It makes it nicer to have like gamepads and keyboard, different input methods, basically. Um, hmm. input buffer pattern, option 1. So this is capture raw events like keys going down, and then I guess send it to all of the relevant places. I want to ask a bit more about that. In option 1, the input buffer pattern, what do you mean by process it deterministically at the start of your game loop? Is that per system, or is that some sort of global handling? Okay, so it's... Okay, so this seems like a little weird. So it's got the it solves out the asynchronous problem. I see what it is. Okay, so so that makes sense. So basically it's like events come in, they get put in a buffer, because God knows when the events are going to come in, you have no idea. But then they're basically saved for the following frame, in short. I think that makes sense, for sure. I kind of don't see why we need to decouple. Yeah, so I kind of don't see the point of doing 1 instead of 2, because it seems like it's the same result, that everything gets saved for a frame. What's the difference between 1 and 2? It seems like 1 is just a bit more ceremony around capturing and queuing all the raw input events and then putting them into a input state object, which is then read deterministically by systems in the next frame. Whereas option 2 seems to be basically the same thing, but just with those first 2 stages collapsed. Is there some subtlety I'm not seeing? Okay, so I'm just, I don't really understand, I guess, so it'll explain it to me. Okay, so okay, got it. Okay, so this makes sense, actually. I think this makes sense. So what it's saying is the input buffer approach, you get every single event, you make sure that they will all get shoveled in. Whereas, I guess it's possible with option 2 that an event could happen between frames, and, so let's say key down, key up, and you'll miss that if it happened, if the key goes down and comes up before the thing is represented. So I think that makes sense. So I think it's right. I think go with option 1. Okay, great. Yeah, let's go with option 1. Let's go ahead and add a section to our spec that describes our input approach. We'll add a section in the core systems section, H4, that describes this option 1 input buffer approach, just in a few bullet points. And then let's go ahead and in the same move, refactor the player movement system to use this approach. And obviously add the new input buffer module and stuff. Okay, so this is a slightly wackier move here. We're kind of updating the spec and the code at the same time. I think that feels like it's going to be okay, because we're keeping them in sync. And I think it makes sense to have a section about how input is handled in like a high level general way, and then just be able to say in the player movement milestone or whatever, because who knows, if we have more player input or input that we handle, then it can just draft off that and just, be pretty succinct. So I suggest the implementation first. Okay, so let's see what it came out. So input buffer. Wow. I guess it's just moved a bunch of code. Yeah. Well, not really. Yeah, okay, so it's got the input buffer, that's great. Let's look at player movement. Yeah, so it's now looking at input state, which I guess that's fine. I would probably have passed in input state into update, but I think that's fine. It's just a cosmetic mainly, I think. Oh, great, excited to delete this code. Yeah, no more private entity store, great. Okay, it's added in the spec. I definitely would have done it the other way around, I think, but that's fine. Alright, let's see what it came up with. So it still works. Yeah, it works great. Yeah, great. Good. Okay, love it. Okay, so now kind of have to stay in this chat because it sort of knows what it's done so far. Let's get the SAT stuff done. Let's do a new chat. Alright, now implement the second part of the milestone player movement and collisions, which is we've done all the player movement stuff. Now we need to implement the SAT collision detection physics module. We need to create a collision system, and we also need to add a collision component to the player and to the obstacles, so that they can collide and are kept separate. Okay, so we're doing the last part of this, whoopsies. There we go. We're doing the last part of the spec now, of the, that we've built so far. Okay, I was excitedly adding more enemies. Okay, it's just checking out the file system. So yeah, obviously agent mode, incredible, love it. Love that it can just be in its own loop, figuring out its own problems, looking at the code when it needs to, writing code when it's ready, reasoning through the problem, searching the web if necessary. Really cool. Amazing. Oh, nice. We got a vector 2D. That makes sense. Yeah, so this is going to be, I'm going to expect this is just going to be like a by the book SAT thing. Yeah, this looks, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so now we've got the collision system. Let's check that out. Yeah, so okay, yeah, so that's fun. It's a bit wacky. I've seen it figure out what has the right components in a few different ways. It's no big deal because it's like pretty obvious, simple code, but it'd be nice to standardize on that, I think. Okay. These are examples. Okay. Oh, fine. Well, it's a bit weird. Oh, interesting. Okay, so it's set up a system for where you define what can collide with what. This makes sense. Okay, now we're presumably updating create obstacle to add the collision component. Great. Yeah, oh nice, that's a good spot. So it's figured out that, or it's decided that obstacles shouldn't move, which is exactly what I would want. That's great. Okay, so it did it. Alright, let's see where we're at. Okay, so running. Oh yeah, look at that. Oh my god, incredible. It's rock solid. That's so great. I love that. Wow! Look, it even slides around it. I love that. Incredible. This is really cool. Right, I mean, obviously some stuff we can change here, but this is incredible. So definite commit time. Whoops. So we added, player movement and obstacles. Okay, great. Okay, so refactor input to cleaner code and not miss inputs, and also player implement player obstacle. Some motorcyclists whizzing up Twin Peaks there. All right, great. This is cool. Okay, this seems like a pretty good stopping place. So obviously we haven't got to the actual AI bit, but that's okay. We're only an hour and 15 minutes in, which is pretty cool. All right. Well, thanks for watching, everyone. Definitely plan to do part 2 soon enough. Cool. Thanks, everyone.